easy target. The jury found him guilty. For 18 years, Avery languished, a life interrupted. Steven Avery's early years. Steven Avery's story begins in rural Wisconsin. Born in 1962, he grew up in a close-knit family. The Averys were known for their salvage yard business. It was a simple life filled with hard work and family bonds. But beneath the surface, trouble was brewing. Steven struggled in school. He had difficulty reading and writing. This led to behavioral issues and run-ins with the law. As a young man, he faced minor charges, petty theft, animal cruelty. It painted a picture of a troubled youth. Despite his challenges, Steven tried to build a life. He married and had children. He worked at the family business. But fate had other plans. The first injustice, wrongful conviction and lost years. The year was 1985. A woman was attacked while jogging. She identified Steven Avery as her assailant. The case seemed open and shut. Avery was arrested, tried and convicted. He was sentenced to 32 years in prison. But there was one problem. He was innocent. Evidence pointed to Avery's innocence from the start. He had alibis. There were inconsistencies in the victim's story, but the prosecution pushed forward. Avery's past troubles made him an easy target. The jury found him guilty. For 18 years, Avery languished in prison. He missed his children growing up. His marriage fell apart. The world moved on without him. All the while, he maintained his innocence. Then, in 2003, a breakthrough. DNA evidence exonerated Avery. It pointed to another man as the real perpetrator. Steven Avery had lost nearly 2 decades of his life. Freedom at last, exoneration and a fresh start. September 11, 2003. Steven Avery walked out of prison a free man. The world had changed. He was 41 years old. He had missed so much. But he was determined to make up for lost time. The media swarmed around him. He became a symbol of injustice. Avery's case sparked outrage. How could this happen? People demanded answers. Politicians took notice. Wisconsin lawmakers proposed the Avery bill. It aimed to prevent wrongful convictions. For a moment, it seemed Avery might turn his tragedy into positive change. With his newfound freedom, Avery tried to rebuild. He returned to his family's salvage yard. He reconnected with his children. He even found new love. But the years in prison had taken their toll. A new accusation would shatter everything. A shocking turn, new accusations surface. October 31st, 2005. A young woman named Teresa Halbach disappeared. She was last seen at the Avery salvage yard. Suddenly, Steven Avery was back in the spotlight, this time as a suspect in a murder case. The timing was suspicious, just as his lawsuit was gaining traction. The investigation moved quickly. Evidence seemed to pile up against Avery. His blood was found in Halbach's car. Her car key was in his trailer. Her remains were discovered on his property. It looked damning, but questions arose. Was the evidence planted? Was this retaliation for his lawsuit? Avery proclaimed his innocence. He claimed he was being framed. But the prosecution pushed forward. They also charged Avery's nephew, Brendan Dassey, as an accomplice. In 2007, Avery was convicted of Halbach's murder. He was sentenced to life in prison without parole. The ripple effect, impact on Avery and his community. The Halbach murder case tore through Manitowoc County like a tornado. It left destruction in its wake. Families were torn apart, the community was divided, trust in law enforcement eroded. The ripple effects were far-reaching and long-lasting. For the Avery family, the impact was devastating. They stood by Steven, but they faced harassment and threats. Their business suffered, relationships strained, some family members distanced themselves, others became fierce advocates. The once tight-knit clan was fractured. Brendan Dassey's fate was equally tragic. A teenager with intellectual disabilities, he was caught in the crossfire. His confession, which many believe was coerced, sealed his fate. He too was convicted. Another life derailed. A divided public opinions and controversies. As news of Avery's case spread, public opinion split. Some saw him as a victim of a corrupt system. They pointed to his previous wrongful conviction. They questioned the evidence. They saw a conspiracy to silence him. These supporters rallied for his freedom. Others believed Avery was guilty. They saw the evidence as overwhelming. They questioned why he would risk everything after his exoneration. They saw a dangerous criminal finally brought to justice. The debate raged on. In homes, in bars, online. Everyone had an opinion. Experts weighed in. Legal analysts dissected the case. The more people looked, the more questions arose. The legal labyrinth navigating complex court proceedings. Avery's legal journey became a maze of appeals and motions. His new lawyers, Kathleen Zellner and Steven Avery, took on the case. They were determined to prove his innocence. They filed appeal after appeal. Each one promised new hope. Each denial brought fresh despair. The legal arguments were complex. They challenged the forensic evidence. They alleged misconduct by investigators. They presented alternative theories. But the courts were skeptical. Time after time, Avery's appeals were denied. The legal system that had failed him once seemed to be failing him again. Brendan Dassey's case took its own twists and turns. His lawyers argued his confession was coerced. They pointed to his intellectual limitations. For a brief moment it seemed he might be released. A federal judge overturned his conviction, but higher courts reversed the decision. He remained in prison. Media frenzy, how making a murderer changed everything. In 2015, everything changed. Netflix released Making a Murderer. The documentary series thrust Avery's case into the global spotlight. Suddenly, millions were invested in his story. The series painted a picture of corruption and injustice. It galvanized support for Avery. The impact was immediate and far-reaching. Social media exploded with theories and debates. Petitions for Avery's release garnered hundreds of thousands of signatures. Celebrities spoke out. The case became a cultural phenomenon. It was no longer just a local story. It was a national obsession. But the series also faced criticism. Some accused it of bias, of leaving out key evidence. The filmmakers defended their work, but the controversy only fueled more interest, more scrutiny. The case was dissected from every angle. The media frenzy had real-world impacts. It brought new attention to Avery's case. The fight continues. Avery's ongoing legal battle. As of 2024, Steven Avery remains in prison. But his fight for freedom continues. His lawyer, Kathleen Zellner, remains committed to his case. She has filed new appeals, presented new evidence. She believes advancements in forensic science will exonerate Avery. The legal battle has taken many turns. In 2019, Avery won the right to appeal based on possible bones mishandling. In 2021, his request for a new trial was denied. But Zellner remains undeterred. She continues to investigate, to file motions, to seek what she sees as justice for Avery. Public interest in the case has waned somewhat, but a core group of supporters remains dedicated. They follow every legal development. They organize rallies. They maintain websites and social media accounts. They refuse to let Avery's story be forgotten. Lessons learned. The broader implications of the Avery case. The Steven Avery case is more than one man's story. It's a mirror reflecting the flaws in our justice system. It raises uncomfortable questions about wrongful convictions, about the power of law enforcement, about the role of media in shaping public opinion. These are lessons we're still grappling with. The case has sparked some positive changes. It's led to reforms in some states. changes in how evidence is handled, in how interrogations are conducted. It's raised awareness about wrongful convictions. But critics argue it's not enough, that fundamental problems remain unaddressed. For many, Avery's story is a cautionary tale. It shows how easily lives can be destroyed by a flawed system. It highlights the importance of presumption of innocence, of thorough, unbiased investigations, of protecting the rights of the accused. These are lessons that extend far beyond this one case. But perhaps the most important lesson is about the pursuit of truth. The Avery case shows how elusive truth can be.
Subscribe for more videos like this. Turn on notification and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.